Today's guest is Marisa Teiner. She's the inventor of Feel Better Pops, a fruit pop made with wholesome superfruits, probiotics, a hint of herbs, and coconut water. What started as a home remedy for her sick son turned into a real product available at grocery stores and pharmacies. She walks us through the whole journey of how to turn your idea into a reality. Marisa is currently looking for investors to take this product to the next level. Good morning, Marisa. I'm so glad you could join us today. I'm looking forward to talking to you. We've never met before, so I'm really interested to hear kind of your life story, your journey in the food industry. So welcome, and why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you'd like us to know to start with.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate this time with you, Maureen. So nice to meet you, and I'm excited to share my journey with you. It started way back when. I come from a family that my parents were both Italian, so everything that we did was in the kitchen. So food was always such a important part of my growth. My dad would be, in the garden and picking whatever, and my mom would be in the kitchen preparing. And one thing that was always instilled to us was we had to be home at 6:00 for dinner every day. That was part of our time together, and the kitchen was something that was our focal point, our nucleus of the family. So that was something special, and I always thought that was part of why food was such a magical thing for me growing up and what I wanted to do moving forward. And I was that child too that would sit at the table, and I would look at my cereal box, and I would turn it and do the games on the back. When I was allowed to have like the sugary cereal, that was like a special treat. But I would do the games, and then I would look at the ingredients, and I was always like consumed on what was inside something. I don't know. That was something that I remember growing up that just made me like question what I was putting in my body, even at such a like young age. I don't know. So I remember that. And I also remember something too that, was just interesting. When I wasn't feeling well, my dad would, make me teas. And, if I had a stomach ache, he would make me chamomile tea. And I always thought that was something interesting. I could feel better by drinking something, right? Instead of taking something like a pill. And that also just kind of always was in the back of my mind. And I think that was the beginning of like this journey of what I wanted to, search and find and share with the world. So I went to school for nutrition. I got my degree in nutrition and dietetics. And when my other students and colleagues were going into the registered dietitian path, I actually went into the culinary world, and I went to the Natural Gourmet Cookery School in New York City, a program that was developed by Anne-Marie Colbin, who was all about food and healing. And it was such a great experience to take what I learned at the college level, but really get knee deep in the food and preparation and how food can heal. Again, going back into when I was younger and having my tea, drinking it, and starting to feel better. So all those kind of made those stepping stones into my journey. So I went out to California for an apprenticeship program at it was the Stanford Inn by the Sea when I was in my early 20s. And they had their own organic garden. So as a apprentice, we would be out in the gardens. They even harvested their own seaweed, and we would take all of that, bring it back into the kitchen, and that would dictate the menu. And I was there for 6 months. I was actually supposed to be there for a month, but I extended it to 6 months. I would have extended it longer, but my father passed away. So I came back to the East Coast. And it was one of those life-altering moments because he was such a part of me. So yeah, and then it started, right? So then I took all of that experience and into I worked at a beautiful spa up in the Berkshires at the Canyon Ranch, and I was the person in between, right? I was not a dietitian, and I was working with the chefs, so I was their nutrition generalist. So I was the person that would float in the dining rooms. I would be the sidekick in the demo kitchens, working with amazing chefs. And I was the one that was talking about all the properties of food and how food was a direct, the direct effect in your healing journey.
Was this a place like the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where she went to the Berkshires for her?
Oh my God, I don't know that. I'm sorry.
You didn't watch that series?
I guess I have to now.
Yes, the family goes to every summer. That's where they go for their vacation for the whole summer.
At the Berkshires. Well, yeah, I can imagine because it's a special little place, just like that place in Mendocino, Northern California. I've been blessed to experience some really special places. And yes, the Berkshires is one of those places.
Yeah, and they would stay the whole summer because this was the wealthy people. They got out of New York City.
Yes, they're very, very, right, upper class.
Yes,
correct.
And this is in the 50s, and this is in the 50s and 60s. So they would go for the whole summer. And the husbands would come on the weekends, when they'd get work all week and then come on the weekends. And the women and the children were there all summer. It was like summer camp for rich people.
Yeah, and so this was the summer camp for the summer spa for rich people.
Oh yes, this was probably the same thing.
Yes. So, there was lots of celebrities. Yes, lots of celebrities that I would be able to, speak on behalf of, it was a great experience. I was there for 2 years, and then I keep moving along because there's always another door to kind of, go through. So, yes.
So what did you do after this?
So then I went from the high-end clientele to the opposite side of the pendulum to a charter school in East Orange, New Jersey.
Oh.
So I was actually the nutritionist at a charter school. So where you had so much opportunity and, naysay in what you're doing in preparation and education. Now you're working at a different level where there is, low income and, just children trying to get what they can nutritionally at this school level. So I was able to kind of work again with the chefs and create these menus, but also introduce new foods that these children have not ever experienced before. So I actually created a class on introduction to new foods. And I remember it was wonderful. Like hummus was such a new food for them, and they loved it. They never saw what a chickpea was, and then crushing it and making into a paste or dip, and then taking celery and just eating it. And that just right there, their eyes would be so intrigued. And I thought, wow, here you go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum. And that was an amazing experience too. So I was able to kind of, make a path in this little charter school in East Orange, New Jersey. And I was there for a couple years as well. And then I moved along where I met my husband, and he brought me outside of New Jersey onto Long Island. Uh-huh. And I worked at a vitamin company for a couple years. And I was the nutritionist for Country Life Vitamins for 5 years. And
now, were you manufacturing vitamins? Is that what you were doing?
So I was on the other end. But they did do contract manufacturing,
Okay.
absolutely on site. But I was working with the regulatory quality department, and then answering questions B2B. So any questions that came in about the vitamins, where the ingredients were sourced, any certificates or documentation requests, they would channel through me, and then I would be.
That doesn't sound like the creative side for you.
It was not. It was not. It was not. But it was a good position. Again, I take on different. Again, I feel like for me, having these different opportunities have been all just a great experience. So I had that experience working on the supplement side of things, which then goes into my other, my next move. So.
It probably was a good education to learn all the regulatory, all the quality issues.
Correct.
Knowing, information is very powerful. So you gained a lot of information probably during those years.
100%. And that's the thing, you do from school is one thing, and the textbooks learning. But for me, I just feel like in life general, once you get out into the world, learning, that's a different type of learning and experience. And that's what I'm most blessed about, is that my mom, my family have always allowed me to kind of spread my wings and just go. I think that's one thing I'd like to pass on to my children as well, is, definitely the school part is essential, but also experiencing is the other part of growth.
And you said this was business to business, so you probably learned a lot about the suppliers.
I did, yes. And then I was also face to face. So I attended a lot of trade shows too. So I was able to be a part of on, the ground level at trade shows, doing some sales pitches as well. Not that I was on the sales side, but, understanding the ingredients, the sourcing, the documentation, all that is involved in then creating these supplement lines, because there is so much that needs to be, checked off before, it gets into the production phase. So,
did you enjoy trade shows?
I do enjoy trade shows. I feel like it's a lot. My husband thinks I go to trade shows for vacations, but it's not a vacation. You're on your feet for 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on the show. I was at Vita Foods last May in Geneva, which was an amazing experience. But that took a lot. It was 3 days, which most trade shows are 2 days. I think by morning of day 3, I was like, oh my God, it definitely takes a lot out of you, but you have the ability to be face to face with a lot of people that you're meeting behind the scenes. And I think there's an excitement too. There's a lot of, what's the next trend, or what's the next new something. And that there is my creative side that always okay, I want to walk the show and see what's happening, and what can I take away and then bring back. So
yeah, and you get to try other products. I love food shows
and that's the best part. Absolutely.
Things that you've read about. See,
just trying and taking all the samples home and then sharing it with my kids. They're always so excited, and some things are a pass and some things are like, no way. So yeah, that's the best part, actually.
Oh yeah, we always felt like it was like trick or treat. They'd give you a bag at the door, and you'd walk around and you get all these samples, and it could be things from like gummies to, in the food shows I've been to, they just wanted to give you things with their name on it. So you got spatulas and spoons and
pens, lots of pens. I got a lot of pens.
And pens aren't my favorite part, but measuring spoons. I think everything in my drawer for the measuring spoons, spatulas, all those things all have a company name on them. My wooden spoons.
That's great.
Everything.
Yes.
And one of them is my favorite. And I found one in another drawer somewhere the other day, and I was like, yay, now I have 2. Because so I was the trade shows, we always laughed because we said, we feel like, and at first you feel a little embarrassed, like walking around picking up people's stuff, because sometimes you pick up stuff that you don't even have any interest in their company. You just want that little trinket. So you pick up all this stuff. And then some things are obviously pointed towards children. They know that these people are going to pick it up and take it home to their kids. So my kids were always looking forward to see what we pulled out of the suitcase after a food show.
It's like trick-or-treating. Correct.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yes.
I haven't been to one.
It's a great experience.
I haven't been to one since before COVID. So maybe I'll go back to another one and see what they have to give us.
Yes. There's one thing to be said about exhibiting, and then there's something to be said about being able to walk the show. So exhibiting, I feel like you have to go in with that mentality of, it's going to take a lot out of you. You just have to go in with that, and you just get through those days. And then once it's over, it's like a party.
Yeah. I think some people are good exhibitors and some are terrible. And I don't mean in general. I mean, like specifically, you'll see people at booths that just stand there and stare at everyone. And you're wondering, you're almost afraid to approach them because they don't look like they're going to say anything. And there's other people that are surrounded by people all day long. And I don't even know if they have that great of a product, but everybody's happy to go see them.
They have that something. Yes.
And you talk to them. So I think it makes for a long show if you're that lonely person no one's talking to, or if you're that person everybody's coming over to see.
Right. And then there's some booths, Maureen, that are just like, wow. I mean, it's incredible from when I was, with Country Life, let's see, how many years ago? My son is 14. So almost like 18 years ago, when I first went to my trade shows with Country Life to today, the booths and what the creation of these like spaces, 10 by 10s or whatever have you. I mean, it's almost like a family room now. You go to these spaces and you want to just sit down and hang out and have a glass of wine and speak on behalf of whatever ingredient or whatever. It's become so different. It's a different world, and how much money it is to exhibit. That's another part of it.
Now there was when I go to the IFT shows, there was always that one booth that had a ploy where at 4:00 they would serve beer.
Yeah.
And everybody in the show would flock over there at 4:00 to get beer.
Yeah.
And one year they were positioned next to the company giving out personal size pizzas. So everyone all day long was going over there to get a pizza and a beer. And then at 4:00.
Perfect. That was well done right there.
Oh, I know. It was, I always wondered if they ever did it again. I didn't know if that was an accident or if they purposely were going to do that they should have from then on.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to get creative in where your placement is, because it does work together. So that's smart.
Then that was great. But the beer, and I don't even drink beer. I was just standing back watching these people flock to this beer. So I would just go over there just to find out who was coming over so I could talk to them. So where did you go after this?
So then I had my son. So I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for a while. And that was a beautiful thing, to be able to be home, check out, and have, this beautiful baby and not have to worry about the outside and just be a mom. And it was a great time to see my son become and grow and crawl and do all those things and milestones. That was special. It was special.
How long did you do that?
So I did that for, until then my daughter was born. So born on the same day, actually 3 years apart.
Really?
Not planned,
wow.
Completely natural. So my son turned 3 and my daughter was born on 10/11. So 10/11/9, 10/11/12, almost to the exact minute. So 4:26 a.m. and 4:27 a.m.
Wow.
Incredible. Yes.
That's amazing.
I don't know. They're like aligned somehow, twins, but not born on the same day. So that was super special. And So then she was in the world, and it was great. So I had two of them, and then he had gone to preschool, and she was with me, and that was my life, and it was great. And then, Maureen, my son kept getting sick, right?
Okay.
So, preschool germs, he was bringing home the germs. My daughter got sick, actually, and she actually had to go to the hospital. She was an infant, and she caught something, and she was in the hospital in the NIC unit for about a week, right before Hurricane Sandy came. I'll never forget that. It was terrible to see her on high pressure oxygen, unable to really breathe because they thought it was RSV, but it was bronchiolitis. So inflammation in the bronchial area. And so that was really scary. And thank God, she's knock on wood, she's a strong little girl. She got through it. But I have to say, every time my son would have a sniffle or anything, I got nervous. I was just so nervous. And in fact, then one time he did come home with a very bad stomach virus, and that really on his end, he was really weak, and he just wasn't able to hold anything down. And I thought, all right, what can I do to make him feel better? Right. He just needed something to just relieve the stomach ache, and wasn't holding anything. He needed hydration. He had a fever. And so then I thought, you know what? He loves ice pops. I'm going to make him an ice pop, but I'm going to do it my way. So I went into the kitchen, and I just started whipping up some things that, made sense, but also had like some sort of purpose, right? I wanted him to feel better, but I wanted him to hold it down and enjoy it as well. So I made him an ice pop with coconut water and apple and ginger, and I had some powdered probiotics. I blended it up, and then I froze it. And then I gave it to him on a stick, because I had popsicle sticks, because, at this stage in my life, arts and crafts was a big game. Yep, I had everything, stickers, all that stuff. But I had the popsicle stick and frozen, and I gave it to him, and he was able to enjoy it, and he was able to hold it down. And then he started to say, Mom, I feel better. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm glad you feel better. It was the first thing he had actually held down in like a day or two. So obviously, like, that, just wanted him to feel better. That's it. And he got through the stomach virus. Everything was good. But something like left me with that experience. I thought, you know what? He felt better. I made something. Is there anything on the market like this? And so I started doing some research to see if there was any type of popsicle that had this type of ingredients like the coconut water or probiotics, and there wasn't. So, and you see, life has a way of bringing things in front of you. There's like these signs. And funny, I was reading a magazine at the time, and I saw this advertisement, and it said, if you have an idea in the food concept or a food idea, bring it to the Rutgers Innovation Center in Bridgeton, New Jersey. And I thought, okay, I'm going to reach out to them and see what I can do, because I think I have something here. And so I did. I reached out to them, and I met with their food scientist, and I drove down 3 hours, and I said, this is just an idea. This is what I made. Obviously, I know from my experience, there's something to be said from taking an idea from the kitchen and scaling it up to commercial, right? There's a lot of there's a lot to be involved in this. And this woman that I was working with, she's a food scientist. And at the time, again, my mind was just being in a creative space. I didn't even realize the science involved in a popsicle.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like this, if I'm all in, I'm all in. I'm going to learn about how to do this. So I drove down a few times, and we started kind of putting my idea to this concept to get it to the next stage, because there's stages and there's sugar content and can it freeze, and most of the popsicles that are out on the market are watered down, and I'm using coconut water and real fruit and this probiotic, and probiotic is a live bacteria. Will it still be alive after the frozen stage? So a lot of thought process in this just idea of making a pop for my son to make him feel better. Hence the name Feel Better Pops was created. So it really exciting that something that was just something became, and the journey of Feel Better Pops started. So I started my business, and it is a great idea of taking something that makes you feel better but tastes great too. I put my culinary background into use. And funny, my son was in preschool at the time, so what I was doing as well was taking my prototypes into the preschool and having the kids be my taste testers and see if something was either too sweet or not sweet enough. And I can read through their signs on their faces and kind of writing notes. And it was a great experience. And then honestly, the time with the Rutgers Innovation Center was to a place where they were taking on a lot of projects, and they didn't have the experience really in this world of popsicles and creamery and ice cream. So the suggestion was, you have a great idea, go with it. But I think the best idea is to find a food consultant in this line of specialty. And so I took that advice, and on my 3 hours drive home, not that it was an end, it was, okay, this is the next piece to the puzzle. So I went home, I immediately Googled food scientist, creamery experience, culinary. She mentioned Penn State, plugged in Penn State. And to my surprise, a name came up and was a consultant. And I reached out to him, Joe Flock, and he was an amazing person that took my email, took my idea, and was interested in working with me. And he became actually my partner, and we took this idea together and ran with it. So
okay, let's back up a little bit. So how long did you work with Rutgers to get to the point?
I worked with Rutgers for about 6 months, actually. Okay. Maybe about 5 to 6 months, in fact.
Now, for something like this, does Rutgers charge you anything to do this?
They do. They do charge you. Yeah. So they charge you because obviously, you're working with the food scientists there. You're using their space, which, they have their kitchen, and the ingredients I would bring in. So I was bringing in the ingredients. We were using what we could, their machineries and such. But I love when people are fully transparent. I think, especially when you're moving and you want just advice because this is all new to you. And when Julie Elmer, that's her name, she is amazing. Still have her as a contact because she was the first person to kind of just say, okay, listen, it's a great idea. You definitely have something, but I'm not the one that can take it and run with you. I just don't have that experience and background. But I think what you should do is do this.
Okay.
And I think, part of, being a business owner, or like when you don't have that type of experience, is taking those little pieces and truly listening and then, moving to the next stage. And then from there, it's like, okay, so let's take what she said. Let's find this person. And there he was. And so I immediately reached out to Joe.
And it was just as easy as a Google. It was just Googled and you
It
found
was
it.
just as easy as a Google. And funny enough, Joe shares the same birthday as my kids.
Oh, no. Oh, boy.
Going back to the birthday.
Wow.
There's like a meaning for everything, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. I know Joe and his wife, so I do.
Yes. They're wonderful people. And to have them along this journey was incredible. Both Trisha and Joe. Trisha on the regulatory, she was like my regulatory person. She was knee deep in so many, what needs to be done, even like with packaging and font size and things like that. Like we were a very small team, always were a small team. This is a grassroots, truly organic way of approach of a business. So the thing was, obviously Joe also charged. He has a consultant fee as well. And we were really trying to get these prototypes. I wanted 3 flavors. That was everything in 3, I think is right. In food, in everything.
Yes.
So I wanted 3 flavors. I wanted the flavors to make sense. I wanted the ingredients to dictate, the purpose behind it. And then I also wanted it, again, to taste good.
At this point, you hadn't even produced one yet, right? It hasn't even got to market. Just in your kitchen.
So just in my kitchen, the original one was apple.
Okay.
So I wanted to take it to the next level and make it more like an apple pie smoothie or something like that. That was where my idea was going. And then of course I was trying to, again, use these ingredients. So pineapple, I know, has great enzymes, right? That break down things. So every ingredient, that was my mantra, had to have a purpose. So I took pineapple and paired it with banana, and I wanted that to be a flavor, the apple pie. And then just because I needed something that gave a little lift in that profile, I took peach and I paired it with the chamomile. So those 2 ingredients had a good play. So together we developed those 3 prototypes or concepts. And we were just, he lives in Pennsylvania. I'm in New Jersey. He would ship me overnight on dry ice, these, pops to taste. And then again, I was bringing it to the school for the kids to kind of give me a feel and a read. And we did this back and forth and back and forth. And of course, it cost money. Everything cost money. Everything. So, it was starting to get a lot actually. And I said, you know what? And he had the idea too, why don't I just become a partner in this? I would love it. I truly believe in this idea, in this business. Let's go all in together. And so he became my partner. Yeah, and so there we are. So there we are on this journey together, developing, and then finally we got it, right? It just clicks. It's like when you walk into a house and when you taste the product, now I have something here that really is on point flavor-wise. Again, he's the scientist. He got the sugar levels on point. Trisha and I, on the other side, we reached out to a few different probiotic companies to see which probiotic can withstand frozen temperatures. So there's a lot of, stuff that goes behind the scenes before something is actually produced, right? So that was that part of it. And then we went into production, and we found a space that made sense for the both of us in Pennsylvania. So we were at the Artisan Kitchen, which is in Westchester, PA. And we started actually to now make the pops. Obviously, we had to buy the machinery and all that too. So we rented a space.
So you bought equipment in this incubator. So you own the equipment, but not the space.
Correct. That was how we can make sense of the start of the next, part of the journey.
you're not co-manufacturing. You're not going to someone else and asking them to make it. You're making it yourself.
No, this was all us. We would, so I would drive down 3 hours to get to Westchester on the weekends. And Joe, he was also working his other job as well. So he would drive, I think it was even more. I think it was 5 hours. And then we would meet in Westchester and just do everything we can possibly do in the time allowed. Oftentimes we stay over at local hotels or whatever, and just produce and produce and produce as much as we can. And originally we did like every other company. We started at markets. We would do farmers markets. They actually, at the Artisan Kitchen, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, they would host these events. So for any startup, this was a great way to just get an introduction into the world and see, what the consumers would, if they liked it, if they didn't. And they had a lot of also referrals as well. So we were able to work with them to get inside some places as well. There was 2 universities, so Feel Better Pops started as an idea for children, right? It's an ice pop on a stick.
Right.
The idea, because again, there's health benefits in gut health, it hydrates. There was a lot to it. But we brought the idea to one of the universities over there, and Westchester University, because, college students need hydration, especially when they're partying all night. So this was almost like a hangover pop that we started to sell there as well. So, interesting how things, start somewhere and then kind of go in different directions.
Did you call it a hangover pop?
No, we wanted to. We didn't get there yet.
Marisa, was there any legal thing about having to claim that you feel better from these pops, or were you not making any medical claims?
In fact, Maureen, we had enough of the probiotic in one popsicle that we could state it supports gut health. Okay. So because of the amount, we were working directly with the company that supplied us the ingredient. Again, it was a probiotic it was Canadian. So that was the company. And we took our pops, they tested the pops to ensure that the amount of probiotics, first of all, could withstand, and then it had the amount that was stated. So we could use those supportive claims on our box itself.
All right. So at this point, you're making them and selling them already frozen.
We are making them, selling them frozen. And then we started to do individual boxes. We started to move into that direction, right? Originally, we were just selling them at farmers markets by the stick, by one. Then we started to get a good following. We started to make a little additional capital. Then we went into the boxes, and we had 3 flavors, 3 boxes. Now we had something tangible, right, to take to health food stores. We went to compound pharmacies as well, because again, children or anybody who were on antibiotics, we could say, if you're on antibiotics for this amount of time, if you were to eat one ice pop, it can help with, any digestive issues that you experience with probiotics. So we had pharmacists that were supportive as well. So I actually had one pharmacist that bought a small freezer just to have the pops in his pharmacy. These are smaller pharmacies in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, as well as upstate New York. I really was able to get them on board as well, because again, it's not just an ice pop. It was an ice pop that had these kind of ingredients to make you feel better. So it really worked beautifully. One that's later on when we shift from being a frozen pop to an ice pop that was shelf stable, but we were able, and we'll get there, but at one point, we were really direct in line with like the Pedialites of the world. And we were doing all right because when a consumer is approached by something that is natural versus something that has a lot of other types of ingredients in there, we were seeing that, especially in one particular area, they were just going directly to the Feel Better Pops because of all the good ingredients in them. So yes, the journey continued. We took our ice pops on a stick and we did everything we could to gain momentum. I actually, one of my close girlfriends who one day knocked on my door and said, listen, I left corporate. I want to be on this journey with you. I will be part of the logistics. I will get these pops out there. I'm taking that place of corporate world and I want to be able to use that and help my best friend here with her, dream. And so she came on board.
That's wonderful.
Yes. So now we have Joe, we have Trisha, we have my great friend Tracy and myself hustling and sweating and going back and forth to Westchester, PA, and, starting to make this kind of wave outside of the Pennsylvania markets to now New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut.
Now, Marisa, how at this point were you marketing this? Were you doing through social media? What were you doing?
Social media, we were doing as much as we could in social media. God for social media. That's how we started really to get the word out. And also, Tracy, I say this, she was a rock star demo person. Like she would go into these different stores and just set up a table and just we're talking about trade shows. She was the person that would get everybody to the table to try the little samples that we had. We got really creative on how we got the samples out there, and then it was word of mouth. It really was. Then we got picked up by ShopRite. We were in a lot of health food stores along, the mom and papa health food stores, again, the compound pharmacies. We were doing really well, and so well that we took our production from Westchester, PA, and we brought it closer to where Tracy and I lived in northern New Jersey, because we were starting to really do a lot more of the production. Okay. So we got a new location, and we got our own manufacturing up and running in northern New Jersey, like 30 minutes from my house. So at this stage too, Maureen, I also was working a part-time job too, because I was really trying to also, use what I can working and funnel it through to the business. Because, you got to keep the lights on and the machines going, but you also have other commitments to a family as well. So even though it's a dream and it's a great dream, but it has to make sense as well. I did not have the ability to have, a limited supply of capital coming my way.
Did you have any investors?
So we all contributed from our own.
Okay. So you didn't have any outside investors at this point? We did
not. At one point, though, we did get support from the state of New Jersey because we were women operated. So we were funded to attend 2 trade shows by the state of New Jersey. And when COVID hit too, we were able to get something from the state of New Jersey as well to help with our business. So that was huge, but no outside investors.
At this point, were you still on those original 3 flavors?
So still originally 3 flavors. Of course, we were still, Joe and I especially myself, I'm always thinking like the next thing. And at that stage of the game, I was actually looking into doing like a CBD pop. I was thinking about ingredients to start, with, again, we were always focused on gut health, but what was the next kind of, next thing? I was thinking next kind of benefit. I was thinking brain support. So using ingredients that can help with children with brain support, eye health, because we're constantly on computers. My kids are constantly on, some sort of device. So I wanted to start now putting together the next line of pops.
Okay.
But again, it's all capital, right? So we can only do what we can. So while the pops were freezing or we were in midst of production, I would be playing in the background, testing new flavors out with Joe, of course, and getting some fun things. I mean, that was the whole part of like that excitement was, playing in the kitchen. It brought back my childhood. It brought back me being in culinary school. It brought back all those good things. And just
during COVID, did people pick up on these and want them to feel better from being sick from COVID? Or how was your impact on COVID?
So the challenge, let me just say, being an ice pop on a stick and being frozen was the challenge, right? It's really hard to get an ice pop to and from places.
Mm-hmm.
I have to actually say my husband was amazing in how he would help me distribute in the back of his truck with a generator to get the freezer and all the pops to the different locations, because we weren't working with a distributor, because the distributor costs money. Everything costs in this game, right? So we were trying to do what we could to limit the amount of funds going out. And so he helped in getting our pops to and from places. And it's funny, some of the old timers would be like, that company Annie's? You're like Annie's, because that's how they would do it, is like old school, bringing, their product to and from, using what they can. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be the next Annie's. Thank you. I love it. This is really like I love it. Like, this is truly how you have to do things. You have to get creative and you have to use minimal amount of, cash flow. So he helped in that. But right. So COVID, you would think we had this immune boosting ice pop and it would be something that people could, catch on to, use it. But how are we getting the pops to it's at a national level, right? Mm-hmm. We were really just grassroots. We're New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, where we can get our pops to with my husband and the trailer and the generator. Unfortunately, shipping the pops, it just didn't make sense, right? Because you'd have to have them on dry ice, and the cost, again, to do all that, it just was too much. So we actually suffered, and it's unfortunate because that product should have really took off at a time when people were feeling ill, needed the hydration. It could have benefited completely. But we were at a price point too on shelves, right? Now people are home. They're not working as much. They need to save their money. Our price point was always a little bit higher. We were a premium product, and understanding why, we're using ingredients like the coconut water, like the real fruit purees. It wasn't watered down. Right. The probiotics in them, the herbal extracts. I mean, everything had a purpose and it had to taste good, and there was low allergen risk. But the cost, especially because we're doing it at small runs, was a higher price point. And that too, not only was the frozen a challenge, it was the price point. We were always at a higher price point. So sometimes we'd have to work with the staff, like, the people that were at the shelves and the frozen aisles, and be like, listen, please don't put us next to SpongeBob because we'll never make it, right? Because SpongeBob is priced at $1.99. We're priced at $6.99. So right there, we're going to take a hit. We need to be in a new area. And actually, that was the one thing I was kind of proud of, was we were carving a new kind of something in the frozen aisle, right? We were not just an ice pop. We were actually a functional food. Yes. There was function in our food, and we wanted to now start this new kind of movement in the freezer aisle. And we had some support, but then again, COVID hit, and it hit people's pockets, and then we took a hit as well, unfortunately. because now people are starting to think, am I going to use this on a regular basis? Is it just something when I feel like, is it only when I feel not well, or can I do it? So all these things started to play, and we were not getting the reorders. We were taking a hit.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was a pivotal point in our company. And so instead of kind of throwing in the towel, Joe and I thought, you know what, something that we had wanted to do, this is the time to do it, is taking this idea, and instead of being now a frozen, how do we make it to something shelf stable where the end customer now is going to put it in the freezer once they buy it, right? So that whole like headache of, being in a freezer, how do we distribute it? All those kind of, because there's so many headaches. I remember one time I had 3 cases waiting for someone to just, sign in so they can put them in the freezer, and they're just sitting there, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose product, because once they're gone, right? Once they've melted, it's not like ice cream where it can become again.
Mm-hmm.
They're gone.
Yeah.
Like that's it. So those headaches were going to, now be something we didn't have to worry. So it took Joe and I almost a year to develop now the next line of pops, which was the same. We had to work with what we had. So taking those 3 flavors and now using it on a different kind of concept, a different delivery form, which was liquid, and then end customer freeze it. So that was a challenge in itself, but we thought this was the time to do it. If we're going to do this, might as well take everything we have and buy the machinery, start testing, start using the different types of, different types of, we had to take now science of how do you take this and make it shelf stable. And that's where Joe's, thank God, his experience was able to do that. So
I remember one time, this is years and years ago, I bought sugar-free, they were sugar-free fudgesicles, the Popsicle brand. Okay. And I didn't like them. So I threw them in the sink and figured in the morning I would just dump the liquid down this drain and throw the box away. So I threw them in the sink probably like 6 o'clock at night. And the next day I get up and I look, and they still are like popsicles, except they're room temperature. Nothing melted. And I thought, oh my goodness, what is in these that makes them non-melting? There has to be all kinds of chemicals and gums and all kinds of stuff. So I wrote a letter to Popsicle at the time, and I said, nice. What is going on that you have this popsicle that doesn't melt? That basically I'm putting it in the freezer I could have put this in the cupboard or in the refrigerator or something. I mean, I don't have no idea. And they, their answer was very non-answer. It was more like, sorry, you don't like it. Here's some coupons to buy our other products. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't think I want to buy it. So that happened. Now, just probably, I'm going to say a month ago, we had some kind of frozen novelty item. I don't remember what brand it was or anything. And my husband didn't like it, and he threw it in the sink, and he figured he'd throw it away when it melted. And 2 hours later, it's still there.
Oh my God.
And I said, well, good thing you didn't eat that, because who knows what it's made of. It must have been made of plastic or something that didn't melt at all. And I thought, wow. So my point being is, yours obviously being of natural and organic materials is going to melt. But these,
it's going to melt.
But these had, who knows what was in them. And I fear now what in the world these people were, putting in there that we were eating that means I could have packed them in the kids' school lunch and they could have taken them to school and eaten them later.
I mean, and that's the whole thing is like, going back to when I was a kid and reading the labels on the cereal box, I've always been so interested in knowing what I'm eating, like what's inside something, right? Because it's going inside me. And I don't want chemicals. I don't want any of those things that if I can't pronounce it or I don't understand it or know it, what is it going to do internally? Where is it going to go? What is it? So that was the big whole mantra about Feel Better Pops, was really taking it, having a product that had these ingredients that, first of all, made sense and also were natural, right? Like that's it. We really wanted to stay in lines with that. And then developing now this next stage of pops, again, to your point, there's a lot of preservatives. There's a lot of things, coloring agents, all those things that we thought, well, we can be the natural version of them. So it did take some time, and we had to do a lot of tests. Of course, you don't want something, you're shelf stable. So will mold grow? Will bacteria form? You have to start testing that. So we had our own little test section where we would make the pops. By the way, we still had to buy a machine, right?
Yeah.
So it took a while for the machine to come, and we didn't have, a crazy amount of capital to buy like the top of the line machine. We bought what we could afford, and it was like the little engine that could, but it did. And we were able to start running these now liquid pops and then testing them on the side to see if what's happening here and what's the taste. It was a lot of work in that 1 year to get them to where they were. And we did it. And then we had to change everything over. We had to change the packaging. We had to change, we had to now get these different linings. I mean, there was so much involved to then now change. And then we actually didn't use a probiotic anymore. We used something else. It was another functional ingredient, but more for immune support. It was a beta glucan. So that was something else that we shifted. So instead of now on the GI side, we wanted to support immune function because, again, COVID. And we did it. Again, it took a while, but we did do it. And then we started doing what we can social media wise to get the word out. We actually went to a trade show once we could attend a trade show in Vegas. We were at a kids health summit as well. We were one of 10 companies that had was a food innovation. So one of 10 companies that was really making a trend in kids' health. So that was something excellent that we had. We won an award as well. So a lot of good things were happening, and it took some time, and we did it. But another problem that we experienced that we didn't kind of think of was when we were selling them and being able to sell them online, because they were liquid. There was a lot just to ship them as well. So no more dry ice, but the weight of the pops themselves, that created another cost, right, to shipping. And so again, because we're a premium product, the cost was still on the higher side, but shipping them added another part to it that all of a sudden, it just, how do we work through that? So that was something we had to work through. But
now, did you give up the frozen side completely and switch to this, or did you do both?
No, then good question, Maureen. Then we did. We gave up the frozen side. We sold, because we needed some capital. We sold the machinery to a company in Pennsylvania, an ice pop company. I hope they're doing well. That machine was amazing. It was a beast. It really produced so much for us. It was like our heaven. So yeah, we sold all that, and then we just had our machine that was solely doing these liquid pops. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Are your liquid pops on the market now?
So our liquid pops are not on the market now, unfortunately. They are kind of on a shelf. Not to say that the company or the idea is done, or it's just kind of, we had to take a step back. We were literally hustling this idea for about 8 years. I actually had to take on a full-time job because you have to do what you have to do in life. So between the full-time, everybody actually had to start doing what they needed to do to help with their own life and families. So we all kind of just needed to just take a breath, take a step back and say, okay, we just want to put it on a shelf and hope we can get it back.
Okay.
Because it truly is, it's a product. Again, we mentioned functional food. It has the functionality. There's potential in growth. There's so much that I still believe deep down in my gut, it can come back. But we need some support. Really, we do. We did what we could as a team, financially. We sweat. We teared. There was a lot to it. It was a really hard place to say, you know what, it's time to just take a step back and breathe. So again, the idea was because of my son, right? He didn't feel well. I made him an ice pop. He actually was the face of the pops.
Oh, yeah.
You know how you see like Wendy's and you have all these. Well, my son Chase was on the box. He was like a little celebrity in school. It was really cute, right? And he plays football too. And so his name on the football team was Chase Pops. And he was known as Chase Pops in his little world. So cute, right? And then eventually my daughter said, no, that's not fair. Like he's on the box and I'm not, right? And I'm like, well, you're right. So when we created the next packaging, I made sure she was on. It wasn't a box anymore. It was like a pouch. So the three of us, right, really are the creators of this idea. I mean, my husband was the driver too.
He gets some credit.
He's going to be on the box. I give him love when I can. So yes. So then she was on the pouch and everybody's happy. But what I'm trying to say is when we had to come to that point of, we need to take a break. It's been a long time. We all need to do what we have to do to, survive, whatever. I went to my son because I felt like, will he be disappointed because mom needs to just take a break? And I said to him, I crawled in his bed, 11 at the time. And I said, Chase, actually, no, 12, 13. I said, Chase, are you going to be disappointed if mommy needs to just take a break from Feel Better Pops? And he said, Mom, I couldn't be more proud of you.
Aww.
And that was amazing because he saw, and he was at farmers markets. They were part of, take your kid to work. I took him to the kitchen and I put him to work. When I had to go to, trade shows or whatever needed to be done, I mean, all hands on deck. So they were part of this journey. So I didn't want to disappoint him, especially. And for him to say that, it made me feel like I did something, even though, the company, didn't become the company I had hoped for at that time. At least I was able to give them something and, working hard and doing what you can do and taking an idea and making it come alive. I think that was part of their life lesson too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I think people think it's really easy. Come up with a good idea, walk through this 10 steps, and then you make it. And that's not it at all. Most of these have these.
It is not it at all. At all. There's so much involved. It's funny. I even say my mom always, because my mom is also a part of my tribe, right? Like I needed to do things and she was also being a woman in business and having children and how are you supposed to do everything? So thank God, I had the support from my mom as well to help me shuttle or do what she can to help with the kids while I'm on my popsicle dream. There's so much involved, but she would see it too. And she would say, people don't understand like what it takes. And like the funny part too, like packaging, like who knew, like everything, there was a packaging, what's involved in putting just the packaging to the fonts and the regulatory side and all of that. And then the product as well. Like, again, who knew science was so involved in a popsicle? It's incredible what it takes to get something out there. Of course, if you have unlimited funds, you can bring in people that are experts and can help you get there quicker. But do have to say, by doing all these things on my own or with my team, it allowed me to learn so much. And if the idea is there and I can still bring this out there with Feel Better Pops, that's amazing. But I hope one day I can also help someone on their journey in creating whatever they can, because if you can pass that on, I think that's part of that's the bonus of it all, right? So
yeah, not to promote anybody or mention any names. Are there any other pops out there that have this idea? So you said you went to a trade show and there were other ones doing it.
We were really close, Maureen, to Target was interested as well in us. So not to put out any crazy names, but Target was interested at one point. But again, our little machine and what the capacity that it can do, there would be no way, right? So we had to now, in this stage of the game, so where we're at now, it's on a shelf. But if we were to get some support out there, we would take this and go to a contract manufacturer, right? So we've tapped out in our abilities in what we can do, right? So we would need the support to get to that next level. And that next level would be contract manufacturing to really run now, 4 pops at a time, the ability to get thousands going and having it just be done that way. So that's it. But to answer your question, there is no pop out there that can do or say what we've done or will do with the ideas that I have and the partner that's on board as well. There's something special. Again, when you walk into a house and we have something special that really has not been done. We were carving this new space in the freezer world. We were carving new space in the kids' health. I mean, to be recognized as one of 10 companies alongside Kashi, we're just this little company, and we really started to make some big waves. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the capital to help us get to that next level. The next level too, not only contract manufacturing, we didn't have the marketing capabilities, the advertisement. We just didn't have it. So do I believe it? I do. Like I said, in my gut, we just needed to I think it was time to just all take a breath and just, see what the universe has in store for us. It was a fair time to just say, let's do that. And as a team, we all agreed. So
right now, if you had the money to invest in it, you could start this all back up again?
100%. With some new formulation and ideas. That's the exciting part.
So you're looking for your Shark Tank, huh?
I am looking for my shark that makes sense, right? So Shark Tank reached out to us, the casting director did, but it was early on. And I was not going to get crucified up there with numbers. I knew at the time we didn't have it. It's a great idea. Everybody says it's a great idea, concept there, but what are your numbers? And we just didn't have that. So there was no way I was doing that. No way. And then actually at the last trade show we were at 2 years ago, we did win a contest to present to investors at this kids trade show in Las Vegas. Everybody loved it. And like I said, Target was interested. The thing was, the investors that were there, no one had experience in food and beverage. They were all in these different spaces. Actually, I was kind of floored. It was more about clothing and furniture and toys. We were
Wow.
really one of only, a few companies there that had this like food or beverage or anything like that. So it was like, really? So again, transparency. They were great idea. I wish I had the experience. This can really, really be something, but I don't have, I don't have the experience in this space. So again, yeah, it has to make sense, right? Just like how the pops make sense. Someone that along, we just need one more, hoping one person can believe in us and really help us too on the business side, help with the marketing and the advertisement, and then getting us to that next stage.
Yeah. Because, they say that baby food and pet food are the two most interesting things to sell because the person, let's say pretend pets are persons, the person who is going to consume it is not the one who purchases it.
Correct.
So it's like with baby food, if you don't put the flavor combinations out there that an adult says, oh, that sounds good, then it won't sell even though the child would eat it. So I look at some of these pouches I buy from Aldi, and they're apple, banana, spinach. And at first I was like, oh, spinach? And so I bought them because I thought, well, maybe, hopefully they did some testing. And I've given them to my grandchildren and they all love them. The broccoli, the spinach, the kale, everything. But they do not buy it. And if I had perceived them to be expensive, I would maybe not have bought them.
Right.
Okay. If I'm, like you said, if you put your pops next to the SpongeBob ones, no one's going to buy it. If they put these pouches next to a jar of applesauce, I'm looking at it going, wait a minute, I can buy, 4 pouches are like 3 times the cost of this jar of applesauce. I could just give them the applesauce. But, the marketing has led us to believe that pouches are wonderful and pouches are convenient and they are convenient. They are easy and they're all those things. But as you have found, when you're selling these feel better pops, the adults are buying them thinking they're giving them to the children, even though you probably didn't say anything on there about this is for kids. I mean, an adult could use it, right? An adult who doesn't feel good.
And seniors too. We actually went to assisted living because, we know seniors, they have a hard time with taste and like hydration and dry mouth. And we were actually doing well at some of the assisted livings. We were also donating to a lot of cancer centers and camps. And, there was so much involved. Like, I really thought that this had such purpose, right? We were almost pops with a purpose versus just, anything else. And that's why it kind of hurts because there was so much that we wanted to do. But sometimes you just, it comes down to capital and how much you can, how much is someone going to pay for a pop too? I remember listening to the owner of Chobani, and he said, you have to make the price point make sense to the consumer because there's a line where they're not going to buy yogurt for $3 a pop. You know what I mean? Like, so it has to make sense as well in order to be profitable. And when you're a small company and you're running these small runs and you're buying at a smaller capacity,
right?
It's hard, right, to get profitable because, so that's another thing. If you're going to a contract manufacturer, you're buying at these larger capacities, the price point everything starts to go down, right?
Right.
So we were dealing with that part of the equation as well. And great product.
But Marisa, you also have a product that if I looked at that product and you were selling it for for a box of, 6 popsicles and you were selling it for $1.99, I would figure that it didn't work because I wouldn't pay I don't go buy my vitamins and stuff and go, oh, I want the 99-cent vitamins. I have to equate that the cost of it tells me that it's a premium product and I should buy it. So you had that balance too.
Yes. And there was another challenge, Maureen, was where is our placement, right? So where do we stand on the shelves? Are we aligned with the other pops? And there's other shelf stable pops out there. Or are we in the pharmacy section at the ShopRites and the markets out there? Because that was like, so where do we stand? And of course, I always wanted to be next to the pharmacy because we're almost a supplement. Well, we are. Mm-hmm. We have these ingredients that have supportive qualities to make you feel better. So we should always be on that side. But the challenge was, getting people aligned to that.
So right now, besides the investment, the capital that you need, it's the timing, the education, to educate people. And I have a feel, I don't know about what's going on in New Jersey, but wow, Western Pennsylvania, we were hit by some bug this holiday. And during COVID, I knew very few people that were sick. This past 2 weeks, I think every single person I knew was sick. So everybody was sick.
It's hitting everywhere.
But I think that we've been on this hiatus for the last 2 years where no one's sick. No one had a cold. I don't think we went through a box of Kleenex in 2 years because we all stayed away from each other, kept our germs to ourselves.
Right, we're masked up.
And so no one's been sick. And now all of a sudden this winter, it's been, now mind you, it's not COVID. It's the flu, the actual influenza.
Cold, the flu, RSV, yes.
And so I have a feeling that people haven't been sick in a long time, and all of a sudden they're experiencing it again. So I would have had zero reason to buy your Feel Better Pops for the last 2 years. Now I would be looking for them because everybody, the kids, everybody's sick.
And in fact, Maureen, I'm still getting calls like, are your Feel Better Pops for sale? Because I have so many people still interested in them. We had so many supporters. And then when they were, we were able to sell them online, even though the cost was high, some people didn't mind it. They would buy them. And, they said that was the only thing that my kid wanted while they weren't feeling well. It was almost like an experience, right? So your child's not feeling well, and what do they want? They want something that they like, and in a freezer, like in an ice. It's not on a stick, but still in that freezy, little thing. It made the experience feel better, and they tasted it and they liked it, and the parents were like, wow, they held it down. Bonus, there are ingredients in there to make them feel better. So it all just made sense. So we still have a lot of love out there. It's just now, how do we get it off the shelf before it becomes, I don't want it to be dusty.
I think the timing might be good soon because the fact that, like I said, I have a 3.5-year-old grandson who had never been sick. Never. Because he was born during COVID. So he was sick a week ago. First time he'd ever had a fever. First time besides like when they have a little fever for their teeth, when they're cutting teeth. But this is the first time he was ill. And my daughter was kind of like, what do I do? She'd never had a sick child. Aww. And, she did what she remembered I did and things like that. But here's a kid who doesn't understand why he's sick because he's never been sick.
Wow. It's crazy.
So, and my other grandchildren always were getting, passed it around, but there's more in their family. But I think there's a lot of kids out there right now in the ages of 3, 4, 5 who have never been ill because they were born during COVID and they've stayed away from everything and they were homeschooled during all that time. And this is their first year going to school.
Being exposed to germs, and it's part of, you do have to be exposed. I mean, it is, you can't live in a bubble anymore. So, you're going to get sick. And so that's part of it. And you do build your immune system by getting sick. And so, yes, it is timing. I do believe that. And then again, we're in an age, I'm still on my idea of like the brain support and the eye health. I mean, there's so many different variations that I can really fly with. So, it's also that too. So not only immune.
You had mentioned that even do the shelf stable, the water content was adding weight.
Yes.
Have you ever given thought to making a mix that people can mix at home, freeze?
Like a sachet. That's a good idea.
Or that they have it and they can mix up and put it in their little Tupperware popsicle forms and make their own.
That's a great idea, Maureen. Absolutely. I mean, we've thought of different types of delivery systems. Obviously, gummies are like the thing right now in my other world of, my other job. Yes, gummies seems to be like the thing. And now there's other, like I just said, I went to a trade show, other vessels like patches and things that you just put on your tongue as well. So there's so many different ways in delivering these ingredients. Again, the experience of the whole like feeling, when you're not feeling well and having that cooling, hydrating. Yes, that was the point of that. But yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Now, did you ever have a chance to listen to our podcast with Michelle Frame?
Not yet.
Because her company makes gummies.
Okay.
For the delivery of medicine.
See, there you go. That's amazing.
They're working with companies to do it for people in countries where they can't get medicine and they're not sure that the measurement would be correct, that they're not sure how, like, for instance, in some countries, they don't have water, so they can't take a pill.
Right.
So they're making medical gummies. But watch that, and you could always get in touch with Michelle, and she could help you if you want to go the gummy route at any point, because that's her passion, is to deliver. Hers is to deliver these. She has a real passion for this. She says the amount of diseases we could cure by getting the medicine in the children.
Right. And that was one of the things too. I wanted to get these pops to children in areas too, where, they're suffering from these types of stomach distresses. But again, in those types of areas, they don't have the freezer capabilities as well. So, right. That's fantastic. Because the whole, again, purpose and just wanting to help kids that were not, in cute situations. So cancer, or, I had one little friend of mine, he actually had his mom get a freezer for his room because after chemo, he was getting these mouth sores. And he said when he was using the pops, they would help the sores, and it's just cooling, and it just made him feel good. So, again, taking this idea, who knew, right? It was just for my son, but really helping in the reach that it can possibly go, the potential. Really, I feel like there's so much still to be done. So
I don't think that you should let this lie and just keep looking for those opportunities, keep looking for those investors.
Thank you.
Because maybe even someone listening to this is going to reach out to you and say, you know what, I think you got an idea there and I think we should run with it. And maybe it's your shelf stable ones. Maybe it's moving on to gummies. Maybe it's coming up with a mix that we all can do at home. So when the kids aren't sick for 6 months, I haven't had these sitting on the shelf for 6 months, I could just mix it up and make it for them.
Great ideas. Let's hope. Thank you, Maureen.
There might be somebody out there who wants to partner with you. So
I hope. I really do. We need one more person to add to our team. What a team we have, and just run with it and really, really help people, right? Kids, adults, seniors. We have a really good idea here. It's just taking it to that next level. So
Yeah. And I think the senior idea is very, very good because of the fact that I saw this one thing on the internet where they distribute these little round, they look like little round gumballs. And the seniors love them and they eat them like candy because seniors are kind of geared towards eating candy.
Sure.
For some reason, they like to eat candy and they can't drink water. Believe it, people think that why don't they just drink water? Well, some of them have difficulty swallowing water, but they can swallow solids. So this young man has invented these hydrating little gummies.
Wow.
But like I said, they don't pop in their mouth in liquid. They actually are, feel to them like a gummy.
Wow.
And they eat these and like 6 a day. They mentioned how much hydration it offers these people. And all these people are in the nursing homes are doing way better when they eat these because of the fact that it's all giving them the hydration that they need that they can't get any other way.
Amazing.
But I bet they could do popsicles. I bet they could do, all of those things. They just don't do well with a glass of water.
Yeah. And here's a delivery system, right? Again, to your friend and, the gentleman with the gum. It's just a different way of delivering these ingredients. And that's it. I mean, that's really the purpose. Instead of swallowing a bunch of pills, and some people have a hard time swallowing or drinking something that doesn't taste good. Although the beverage market, it's another one of those areas too that's interesting. I like it. I'm a big kombucha drinker and I love those little shots. I think you can get a lot in. Just so much potential in that functional space.
But actually, a lot of older people can't swallow liquids.
It's crazy.
It's very weird. You think that they could sit there and eat a hamburger or French fry, but they can't swallow liquids.
Yeah.
And so these kind of things help them get the hydration that they need without wondering why you keep putting a glass of water in front of them and they won't drink it.
Right.
Or even a drink. So some of the beverages don't work for the older people.
Yeah.
Because it's still a water delivery.
Right.
And they need something that isn't water.
Yes, a solid.
They need something that's a semi, and they get most of their liquids from eating foods, but they lose their appetite. It's just a kind of a snowball thing. And I've learned a lot that most of the elderly are in poor health because they don't eat right. And they don't eat right because they don't eat. Some are living alone, right? Some are living alone and they don't get the ability to go and get what they need, or they don't have the interest in, making what they want. And a lot of them just need companionship. And if they had that, and then you pair it with food and bring back the kitchen, right? Because everything is great when you're in the kitchen and you bring all that back. And actually in some of the assisted livings and the I don't like to say nursing homes because I'm thinking more assisted living, people actually go to the dining room, they eat together. They eat more because of peer pressure. Because they see everybody else at the table eating, they're going to eat.
Right.
And if they've been served food, they don't want you to throw it away, so they'll eat it. But if they were at home alone, they wouldn't even put it on the plate, so therefore they wouldn't even eat it.
But there's also to be said when you're surrounded by people, right? There's an energy there. And when you're eating together, it just brings it's more joyous, right? Instead of just by yourself sometimes. Although I like eating by myself sometimes just because, I'm at a stage in my life where quietness is so nice. A nice glass of wine, I'm good.
Yes.
But I do understand, that sometimes when you're alone and, you want some companionship, it brings some more joy to that experience. So
yeah, I think that to circle back, I think that your Feel Better Pops would do well at both ends, for the children and for the elderly.
Yes, and for the college students, right? The college students that are hungover. and need extra hydration, or the partiers out there. There's so many angles. That's the thing. There's so many different angles that we can market and get to. So that's the exciting thing. It was directly related to children because, again, children love ice pops, but we saw that we can really make it become something more. So
let's hope that 2024 is your year and that we can get these back on the market. Because I know we tried them. We had them here in our house.
yes.
And they liked them.
Thank you.
So I liked them too. We all tried them. They were very good.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So Marisa, thanks for being with us today. And thanks for telling us about your journey to the Feel Better Pops. And hopefully we're going to see them back on the shelf real soon.
Yes, I really appreciate your time with me. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey. And let's hope Feel Better Pops will come alive again. So thank you, Maureen.
All right. Thank you so much.